just give it to Matia. Cohen Barnes.
Here.
Nina Fontana.
Here.
Vicki Hernan Favorite.
Here.
Mary Hess.
Here.
Tom Matia.
Here.
Victoria Newport.
Here.
Tracy Williams.
Here. Okay, if everyone would stand and join me in saying pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There'll be one change to the agenda this evening. We're going to move 8A as the first presentation. That is the TIF discussion. So that will come right before the middle school schedule proposal by Dr. Miller. So we're making that switch. Okay. We have acceptance of gifts. It's been recommended that the Board of Education accept with gratitude the donation of $3,500 in adapted equipment to our early childhood program from a family at Brooks Elementary in memory of their daughter. And the donation of $2,500 from DeKalb Music Boosters to support Arts Midwest World Fest. Do we hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And we are most grateful for that donation. It has also been recommended that the Board of Education accept with gratitude the donation of $26,200 to Brooks Elementary from the Brooks PTA for the purchase of technology and professional development towards the staff. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
And Victoria, I know you're one of the co-presidents of the PTA. Thank you very much for all the hard work of the people from Brooks Elementary. It's also been recommended that the Board of Education accept with gratitude the donation of $23,540.53 from the estate of Miss Adeline Lottie to the DeKalb School District and give permission to administration to work with the DeKalb Education Foundation to allocate the funds to our schools. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Dr. Briscoe, can you talk a little bit about that donation?
Yes, this is someone who passed away. She was in her 90s from Iowa, and we received a check. And we went back to find out as much information as we could, and there was no family. And all we knew is she had lived in DeKalb and had possibly attended school in DeKalb at one point in her life, and we received a check. So our recommendation is that we'll try to recognize her through the DeKalb Education Foundation, maybe through some kind of scholarship if it's possible. We'll work with them and the DeKalb Community Foundation to find out what we can do to at least recognize her for the contribution. So that's all I know. Very good.
Okay, now we're up to public comment. Members of the public who wish to speak to the board should complete a request card. Prior to the meeting, this section of the meeting will be reserved for comments from the public. All comments should be limited to 3 minutes, and criticism of individuals is not in order. First, we have Becky Maskell.
Speech I'm going to make so you can follow along if you want to.
I am Becky Maskell, and I teach 6th grade math at Huntley Middle School, and I'm a District 428 resident. I come before you tonight representing District 428 middle school staff concerns regarding the middle school schedule being proposed by the FFAC. These concerns are focused on what the students will be losing, not on the loss of staff. The FFAC subcommittee, which worked on this schedule, limited the scope of their study by only giving serious consideration to schedules which increase math minutes and reduce staff. The schedule being brought forward tonight increases math to approximately 88 minutes per day. These minutes are found mainly by eliminating the exploratory period. These changes create a domino effect, which we fear will lead to the following negative impacts on our middle school students. One of the impacts will affect students in band, orchestra, choir, and assisted studies. These students will not be able to receive Tier 2 or Tier 3 interventions. There are a number of students who struggle academically, but who find their motivation for school attendance through participation in the music program. Currently, they can receive academic support during exploratory classes and still participate in the music program during their encore time. The proposed schedule eliminates one of the two choice periods, thereby forcing students to choose between academic support and nurturing a musical interest. Not only does this make for a potentially less enjoyable middle school experience for students, but it also has an impact on the district music program in general. Fewer middle school students involved in the music programs will lead to fewer students seeking these programs in high school. DeKalb is known for its award-winning music programs. The caliber of performances in these areas can't help but be impacted by the changes necessitated in the proposed schedule. This schedule also impacts students who are receiving special education services. Special education students currently receive academic support in two ways. In their assisted studies class, which is taught during the exploratory period, they receive academic support such as teaching of organizational skills, review of notes, studying for tests, helping with study strategies, etc. Additionally, they are able to receive targeted interventions in math or reading during their encore period. With the proposed schedule, one of these periods is eliminated, thus forcing the choice between targeted intervention or assisted studies. Therefore, students who rely on the two periods of support would only get half of the support that they currently receive. Another area that's impacted is the fact that business and higher education leaders in our community have been urging public school administrators to focus more on providing career readiness skills to students. This includes a need to increase the students' level of proficiency with technology, developing critical thinking skills, and learning how to work together effectively as a group. The proposed schedule eliminates the opportunity for all students to receive computer classes. If you pass the proposed schedule, many middle school students will not have the opportunity to take a computer course during their middle school years because computers will be an elective. It will compete.
Thank you. Your 3 minutes is done.
Okay, I've just got a couple more. It will compete with music courses in Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions. The proposed schedule also eliminates one of the two middle school computer teachers so that fewer computer classes will be offered at each school. This is especially detrimental for the at least 20% of our students whose families do not have a working computer at home. Thank you very much.
Please.
Okay, I'm Jenny Omrad, also from Huntley Middle School. We're on the fourth point there.
Right.
A core tenet of the middle school model is to provide the students with the opportunity to explore academic interests to which they have not yet been exposed. Currently, middle school students can learn about different types of music, from classical to drumming and general music class. They can learn basic art concepts, art history, and approaches like sculpting and drawing in art class. They can learn how to create a PowerPoint presentation or basic keyboarding skills in computer class. The proposed schedule will also decrease art and music teachers at the middle school level. This means that fewer than half the middle school students will be exposed to the basic knowledge currently presented in these encore classes. Additionally, research studies conducted over the last 20 years indicate that many benefits result from an arts education. Benefits such as motivation, creativity, socialization, and self-esteem. In hard economic times, these arts classes are often the first to be cut, but at what cost to our children? Also potentially impacted is the impression that we give as a district to people looking to buy homes within our district. Realtors are almost always asked about the schools and what types of programs they offer. Number 5, the proposed schedule puts health back into PE so that all students will experience one 9-week period each year during which they have no opportunity for physical activity during their day except for the 3-minute passing periods in between classes. With the current understanding of the part that the lack of daily physical activity plays in the development of childhood obesity and diabetes, this change seems unconscionable. All these challenges can be and have been more effectively met with a schedule that was previously in use at the middle schools in this district. The schedule gives 53 minutes to all core classes. This increases the math minutes, allows for both an exploratory period and an encore period, provides daily PE classes for each student for the entire year, allows special ed students to receive both an assisted studies period and an intervention period, and provides the opportunity for all students to have exposure to music, art, and computer. The 53-minute schedule does decrease direct teaching minutes in language arts, but this decrease can be supplemented with a focus on the literacy across the curriculum approach, which is currently being used at the high school. With this approach, social studies and science teachers set aside time in their content areas each week to specifically teach literacy skills using their textbooks and other curriculum materials. In fact, the recent federal mandate to focus on teaching Common Core standards in all core classes supports the teaching of the types of skills taught in literacy across the curriculum. In summary, I'm asking that you do not support the adoption of the middle school schedule being brought forth to you tonight from FFAC. Instead, please consider reinstating the schedule previously used at the middle schools, which gives 53 minutes to all core subjects. At the very least, explore further the pros of the 53-minute schedule and the cons of the 88-minute schedule. We still have a year before the new schedule is needed. We think that the middle school children of our district deserve a more clearly thought out plan. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you, Jenny. Lori Ames?
I included, we did, sometimes people think that it's just a few people who believe what we're presenting. So we did, through computers, email, get people to sign a petition for us, and that was included at the back of our outline.
Lori?
Hi, my name is Lori Ames. This will be my 28th year at Huntley Middle School as a health education teacher. I am a lifelong citizen of DeKalb. My grandmother came here by wagon train in the early 1900s, and my family never left. Both my mother and sister taught in DeKalb School District, and my grandmother taught in the DeKalb area. I have 3 children that all graduated from DeKalb High School. One is now a lawyer in downtown Chicago. One is a graduate of Purdue University as a biomedical engineer who has now actually decided to teach. And one was the director of human resources in a large Chicago accounting firm until she decided to be a stay-at-home mom with my 2 beautiful grandchildren. None of this would have been possible if it wasn't for the excellent education they receive within the DeKalb School District. I'm proud of DeKalb, I always have been. However, I am very concerned about the schedule that is being proposed tonight by Dr. Moeller. You look at the schedule in front of you with student A and student B in mind, and on paper it might look reasonable. However, I look at this proposal with my students, Johnny, Tommy, and Sue in mind. What you assume will work with student A and student B will not work with Johnny, Tommy, and Sue. How do I know this? Because I've been there in the trenches with Johnny, Tommy, and Sue for over 28 years. Even the best teachers, even the most creative teachers, have a hard time keeping students on task for 60 minutes, let alone 88. My main concern tonight is the fact that this proposal has students being taken out of 9 weeks of physical education to take my 9-week health class, where ironically they will learn physical activity curbs childhood obesity, the #1 killer of Americans, decreases hypertension, which last night on the news has skyrocketed in children in America, increases their immune systems, decreases their chances at arthritis, decreases their chances of osteoporosis, increases their longevity, decreases their chances of cancer, and decreases their chances of heart disease, decreases depression, stimulates brain cells, helps social relationships, and job and school performance increases. When we did this 2 years ago with PE and health, I had a 12-year-old boy raise his hand with a Mayo Clinic fact worksheet in his other hand and say, "Miss Ames, I don't get it. If this is true, why in the world are we not getting PE this quarter?" I did not know how to respond. What am I supposed to say to him? It doesn't make sense. I beg you tonight to look the schedule proposal over carefully. Please go slow. Ask yourself not, will this work for student A and student B, but is it in Johnny, Tommy, and Sue's best interests? Please, for their sake. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark Carwigan?
I actually just had double knee surgery earlier this spring, so I'm thanking the architect for these small steps. My name name's Mark Barbigan, and I teach art at Huffman Middle School. And I'm here tonight because I believe the subjects of art, computers, and music are worth saving. An effective education in the fine arts helps students to truly see what they look at, thoughtfully hear what they listen to, and emotionally feel what they touch. Engagement in the fine arts helps students to stretch their minds beyond the bindings of the book or the rules of what is provable. An education in fine arts teaches one how to think outside the proverbial box or to think creatively while staying in it. The arts are what make us most human and complete as people. Yet, it's a subject area that is often given only partial attention in our educational system, not realizing that the more you shrink it down, the less relevant you make it. However, research proves that education in the fine arts is effective in reducing the student dropout rate, raising student attendance, developing better team players, fostering a love for learning, creating a stronger climate for student dignity, enhancing student creativity, and producing a more balanced and prepared citizen for the future workplace. Brain research evidence has shown that the arts develop neural systems that produce a broad spectrum of benefits ranging from fine motor skills to creativity and improved emotional balance. It is often forgotten that not all students are cut out to be rocket scientists. Some of them won't be going to college, and maybe shouldn't. Some students have been made for a different purpose that a higher math score won't accommodate. Some are better fitted to draw rockets or paint them than to calculate the formulas that make them fly. Not everyone is an academic in the same sense. To use an art term, it's frequently a matter of perspective. The arts also provide learners with non-academic benefits such as promoting self-esteem, motivation, aesthetic awareness, cultural exposure, creativity, improved emotional expression, as well as supplying a link to social harmony and an appreciation of diversity. In many cases, the arts reach students not normally reached, in ways and methods not normally used in other classroom settings. In the end, motivation is the real key to improving math scores, or any scores for that matter. One has to improve the motivational atmosphere. In a climate that increasingly relies on information that is without a face, the study of fine arts places value on the one human ability that can't be automated.
Mark, you've already gone 4 minutes, so can you wrap it up, please?
Shrinking down the fine arts would be like taking away the smile from the movies.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark. Richard Collins.
Thank you, guys. I'll be real quick. My name's Richard Collins, and I brought my family today with me. And I brought them because my oldest daughter, Emily, has gone through the music program. And this fall, she'll be going to Kish on a full scholarship. Big part of that is because of the time she spent in the music program. My 2 youngest children, if music is taken away at any level, they're going to be brokenhearted. They love the band. They're there at every event, and we're going to go this fall. That's the emotional side to me. And I also lost band programs when I went to school, and it affected me. I just checked out. We're going to have a lot of kids check out. I think numbers are something you guys are probably more interested in. The bottom line is every school that has made major cuts to junior high music programs and art programs has seen a dramatic decrease in their overall GPA. Children who are in music programs, and it's correlation, study after study after study has shown that students who are in all 6 years of music perform better in SAT, and they bring school district GPA averages up in math and in literacy. I'm sorry, I'm about to get upset. This is kind of important. Also, and this is the strongest thing I found as far as the studies that I research, students who play higher level music, and this in every case, there's no exception and there's no data that I could find that contradicts this, students who play higher level music and go to the music festivals like IMEA and some of these students carry GPA levels in math and literacy, and they also tend to be the kids who get awards going on into college. to cut music programs, to cut art programs at the junior high level, just to add a few minutes in math, is not going to increase math scores. And I would hate to see that happen. And I really thank you for allowing me to speak, because as a parent of these children, it's my job to defend their futures just as it is yours. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Rick. Hung Nguyen.
Hi, my name is Hung Nguyen. I am a parent and a citizen of DeKalb, and a business owner. I also work at Apollo Colors in Joliet as a cost accountant. I won't bore you with the statistics or the emotional part of it. However, I will tell you that as a businessman, as a business owner, we put a premium on creative problem solving. And if you take away the arts, that skill is going to be taken away. And I think that is a big mistake. And then the other thing that really bothers me is that when you take away, when you look at the students who are involved in the arts and the music, you know, they are the higher achieving students. And you take that away from them, it is a punishing situation as opposed to rewarding the very people, or the very kids who are improving your GPA level. And lastly, my son, who loves art, Mr. Barwegan is his teacher, who loves music, Mr. Potts. Where's Mr. Potts here? Mr. Potts. He loves music. He loves art, and the amazing abilities of his writing comes directly from his creative thinking from those two classes. And as a matter of fact, as he quotes when he performed over here, that Mr. Potts has influenced more than anybody, including me, which is, that tells you how much influence Mr. Barwegan and Mr. Potts have made on my son. And believe me, he is a great kid.
Rich Holland.
Thank you for this opportunity. I'm Rich Hawley. I'm the Dean of the College of Visual Performing Arts at NIU, and the Commission will pass out some packets. And I want to thank my fellow citizens for being so passionate, eloquent, as they describe, and their reasons for believing that the proposal in front of you is not going to be a successful one. Many people have stated that study after study says this and says that. These people are absolutely correct. These are the studies. So rather than just tell you that these things happen, you can look up the studies yourself. All the information you need to find the studies is here. There's a synopsis of all the studies that we've looked at, etc. This is 37 pages long. I have another one. This one is for music. I have another one for visual art. I didn't want to dump 75 pages worth of stuff on you, but the gist of the study results are exactly the same. So you can. I hope you will take some time to read this. I will try to stay to 3 minutes. Please cut me off because I know you have many other people who want to talk and have lots of business to do. This is a subject where I actually get to go around the country quite a bit to talk about. This packet gets sent all over the country whenever there are school districts who are going to consider the same types of things you're considering. Cutting the arts is a huge problem in this country. There's very little that I think I can say that hasn't already been spoken to. You're not only talking about the children in the middle school. You're talking about your entire school district. You're talking about the city of DeKalb. You're talking about the rest of the life of all of the children who go through the school district. If you really want to improve your math scores, you'll take the music program as a model and find a way to teach math and literacy and other problem areas in the way we teach music. Okay? In private lessons, an ensemble, a team building exercise. If we can change instruction in other areas to be the same as music, you will find your scores and motivation of the students goes way up, okay? Use music as a model, use the fine arts, visual art as a model, and what I heard about the health class, oh my God, this is serious stuff. So the types of cuts you're talking about are a huge, huge mistake. Rather, use what you have that's successful. I'm biased, I'm going to admit it, because I'm in the arts. But from my standpoint, as a community member, the most successful thing you have in the school district is the music program. And you're talking about cutting it. I don't know any company that cuts their most successful area. This is something, thank you. So in any event, please use the arts as a model and don't cut them. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Steve Lundin.
My name is Steve Lundin. I'm the band director here at DeKalb High School. I appreciate this opportunity to speak before all of you. I'm obviously here to speak about the same thing. I'm going to come at it from a little bit different angle. I've had a chance to, well, I guess first I want to say I've been here a number of times before the school board, but usually it was always by invitation and to thank the students for all the great work they do. By the way, I have your all-state certificate on my desk. I really do. And I guess I'd like to say I would like the opportunity to continue to bring our great students before you so you can see the amazing work that they do. And I know that the proposal that's out there says that it's going to keep the ensembles intact, but the truth is, that proposal has either reduced 3 FTE or 5 FTE. If you reduce the 5 FTE, that's a 40% reduction in our instrumental music staff. That's not a piecemeal cut like it says in the Daily Chronicle today. That's kind of gutting the program. You know what I mean? You're almost taking out half of the program. What that would mean is that students playing the flute, clarinet, saxophone, oboe, trombone, trumpet, tuba, percussion, and tenor sax and baritone sax, all at the same time, who have never ever held any of them in numbers as big as 70 to 80, will be trying to learn that at the exact same time as they're trying to learn how to play with each other, blend, listen, follow a conductor, read notes on a staff. There isn't a model anywhere in the country where people try to do it without an extra assistance where it's just the trumpets, just the flutes, just the clarinets. It's just not doable. I mean, it's an unmanageable proposition. And what we're talking about is very shortly, the level of education will be so poor that the student involvement enrollment would surely drop. And quite honestly, you have a multi-million-dollar facility over there that'll be vacant in about 3 years. I mean, empty. Classes won't run. My other point, and this is maybe a little bit, killing a bug with a sledgehammer, but the data that everybody's talking about, we looked at it here at DeKalb too. When Jason Mix was first hired at Clinton Rosette, he assumed that if we're pulling students out for lessons, well, surely their math and reading scores must be lower. We pulled the data. They outperformed every other cohort of students. We looked at the data here at the high school just a couple months ago. You know what we found out? 93% of instrumental music students meeting or exceeding. And if you had graduation this year, 7 of the top 10 were in the music program. Those are hard numbers to ignore. Frankly, if you're really if we're a data-driven school, if we look at the data suggests that we should have more students in lessons, not fewer. So anyway, if you're going on with those proposals, the minus 3 FTE is a whole lot different than the minus 5. So
Thanks, Steve.
thank you.
Joe McCormick.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm Joe McCormick. I come with sort of 3 hats on. I'm a parent of my oldest son in the district. I have the privilege of being the music coordinator with Chris Wild, and I teach at Founders, as well as being a citizen. And I knew that a lot of the information that we'd heard would be presented, and as Rich stated so eloquently, so I'm not going to repeat a lot of those things. I want to come at you from the struggling student perspective, because so many of our students excel in music, and you think about scores are so great, music students score so highly on tests. But the truth of the matter is we have a very diverse district, and much of our district struggles academically. And the kids that we need to keep in school often are excelling in the arts, and nobody knows it. So I thought I would tell you a quick story about one of my students that I had many years ago. I think he graduated this year, actually. And he was a student that struggled excessively with behavior problems, to the point where at times was really difficult to control in class. And in my class, I never knew it. This kid came in, he was listening, he was respectful, he was wonderfully in tune to the music, he loved recorders, did really well. And I said, that kid? No, you're wrong. And they said, no, it's that kid. And in my class, he really did well because he looked forward to it because it was a different kind of learning, a non-traditional learning. And the next year, he switched schools, and coincidentally, so did I, his school. And the first thing he said to me was, Mrs. Morgan, are we going to do recorders again? And this was a situation where he had to earn his specials, and he didn't miss very many classes, friends. I've had the privilege to teach several of you in this room, actually. And the students that we have in DeKalb are wonderful, partially because we're so diverse. So the kids that are going to be really severely affected by these schedule proposals are the struggling students that need it. Sometimes that's the only reason they come to school. Let's be honest. Because they have art that day, or because they have music that day, or because they have computers where they're really good at it. And they excel in those classrooms because it's different than the traditional classroom. So I wanted to bring that story to you sort of as a way to think a different, kind of a different perspective about a lot of our students here that struggle. We have a lot of kids that excel, which is amazing, but a whole lot that don't. And I think our programs really help those kids too. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Jill. Appreciate it. Michael Hajishi.
I'm coming at it a little bit different. I'm a professor of electrical engineering, and one of the things I want to point out to you is there's other ways to approach math. And one of the things that you have to do is understand that mathematics does not exist as a standalone thing. Mathematics is part of science. Mathematics is coming from science. Newton didn't go out and, or let's say Newton didn't go out and say, hey, I got this calculus, let's see if it works on the stars. Okay? So what you can do is there's a whole new series of standards coming out called the Next Generation Science Standards. And these Next Gen Science Standards want to go with cross-cutting implementation of reading, mathematics into the science curriculum, and where it should be. We shouldn't be playing with just mathematics all the time. We should be playing with science, with math. I mean, I spent 6 days with the Elgin School District's middle school teachers on nanotechnology, and they're interested in expanding their mathematical instructions to their students. They're interested in taking new technology, nanotechnology, engineering, electrical engineering, material science, and using those type of things to project to their students and doing the mathematics. So I'm passionate about doing science and math together. I am not coming just as I was a musician before I was an engineer. In fact, I was in a music program before I went to get my engineering degree. There's a guy over here, he's another professor in chemistry. He was a musician before he was a chemist. So it is not an either-or thing. There are other ways to approach mathematics, not just more instruction. More instruction. My college students can't handle more than 50 minutes half the time. They start going off on their iPods, okay? So when you think about how much time you want somebody to concentrate, let's move this into multiple stages. This is the way the entire educational system in this country is being pushed, is across implementation and other courses. Let's look at some other things, okay? That's all I would like to say.
Thanks, Michael. Misty Hajishi.
The other half. I am coming to you from a different angle than my husband. I was recently elected to county board, but I am not here as a county board member. I'm here as the past president of Music Boosters, and I've raised thousands of dollars for your students, for the district. I'm also the past chair of the finance committee, so I understand the criteria that you're talking about. I understand where the money has to come from, and that we've gone across the district looking at absolutely everything there is that can be cut. I come at you knowing those things. I also have 2 students who are now graduates of DeKalb High School. My older one went into music first, and now she's an art major at NIU. My other one just got a scholarship to study jazz at Southern Illinois in Edwardsville. So music is very important to us. All of us play instruments. We're all involved in art. We're all involved in math and in science, and you can do more than one thing. When you have a basis of this, you're looking at money and you're looking at test scores. Those are 2 of your main criteria. If the test scores did not go down, then why are we changing math? We just got a recognition from U.S. News and World Report that we're in the top 10% of the nation, and the math was higher than the reading. than the literacy on their survey that they looked at. The state levels are a little bit above where we are by 10 to 12 minutes respectively for 6th and 8th grade, but we're looking at putting way more than that. And one of the things that I told my husband that he mentioned to you was attention span. You want these kids involved. In the middle school, the one thing you get to do as a new middle school, as a 13-year-old or a 12-year-old or 9-year-old, however old it is you get one choice. You get an elective, whether you call it encore, whether you call it let's see, what else do we call it? Enhancement, enrichment, encore, elective. You get one thing. But if you take that away, then they don't feel the same way. It's hard enough to be that age. It's a difficult age. And having that one choice sometimes is the difference for the kids. Loss of music students, we've talked about that. We are nationally recognized, not only as a high school, but as music. We win when we go places. I just took the kids down. We went to New Orleans, and we came back winners. The jazz program has won. The choir has won. The arts has won. I mean, the jazz, choir, music, orchestra, we're all winning. It's a winning program. We have a whole wing down here. When we built it, and as chair of the finance committee, I was in charge of looking at those bonds to spend to help build this building. So I'm involved in this building too. We had to look at where we're going to put. Okay, stop. All right. Finally, I want to say one last thing, and that is that music and art do not rely on a test score or on your grades. You can do it no matter what. You don't have to be fabulous and a perfect student to do it. And so music and art and computing, I forgot to say, computing, our mission statement says we're going to educate our kids for a global society, and that includes computing. And no one's mentioned that first, so I apologize for going over. But anyway, all of this begins early. It begins in the elementary and middle school. Thank you.
Let's move on to board committee reports and correspondence. I have no correspondence from the board. Any reports? And most of the committees are on hiatus in the summer.
Just one.
Okay, please go ahead.
And Victor Favor, please jump in on this, but we were talking about winning programs. The FFA went to the King County FFA Fair in the last year or so, and came home victors and fill in all the winners. And beef.
The beef barn, the school won over every other school in Section 6 for animal quality, animal showmanship. I don't know, Sarah's not here, I can't tell you how the rest of the barns went in hogs, but I suspect we did well in the hog department.
The point is, it's still an ag community.
Still ag community.
Very, very well.
We're still out there farming, folks.
Yeah. Very good. Okay, as I mentioned in our presentations, we wanted to move the TIP presentation forward. So Rudy Espiritu from the city. Rudy, you here? Thank you.
President Mattia and members of the board, good evening. I'm Rudy Espiritu, the interim city manager here in DeKalb. I'd like to thank Superintendent Briscoe and Ms. Frola for inviting me this evening to discuss two potential TIFs that the city is considering establishing. Originally, the city looked at creating 4 TIFs. We found that 2 of those TIFs were not eligible to be a TIF area. So I'm here to discuss the 2 areas that we are looking at. This is the Sycamore Road TIF. Now, this is the area that includes the old vet clinic, the old, what we call the Doc Nelson property, the old Smalls furniture, and then as well as the NMU warehouse behind that. We had a TIF study done. It met the requirements as a blighted area per state statute. The cost to redevelop this total area was approximately $4.47 million. Of that amount, the city, similar to the surplus agreements we have with all the other taxing districts, the city is looking to declare 15% of the total revenues, the increments in that TIF, as a surplus. That equates to approximately $4.4 million in total revenues towards these projects. So obviously, there's not going to be any access that we're going to be gaining as part of this TIF. We would share that with the other taxing districts, inclusive of the school district, and that's how we came up with the 15%. So essentially, $4.4 million in regards to do the project, $4.4 million in total revenues. To the TIF. Excuse me. The second TIF we're looking at is what we call the South 4th Street TIF. This is basically on 4th Street from Taylor to the north, all the way south to Huntley Middle School. This includes Huntley Middle School, it's inclusive in the TIF. We had a TIF study done for that as well. We met the requirements as a blighted area to be TIF eligible. The total project cost to redevelop this area is approximately $13.9 million. We would not have any surplus to share because the total increment that we would obtain from this TIF would be approximately 3.9. So there's that $10 million gap still that we would have where we wouldn't be able to share because there would be no surplus. So that difference, approximately $10 million, would have to come from grants as well as private funding. So TIF in this case would act as the inducement to get that state funding as well as the private development. I think we'd all agree that these areas are in need of some stimulus. A lot of these areas have been in the condition it currently is for decades. So obviously there's a need there. I'd like to thank the school district for allowing me to discuss these potential TIFs. I know when TIF is discussed with a school district, it can have a negative connotation at times. But I think sometimes people forget how much it can help redevelop an area, be a positive tool for redevelopment, cleaning up areas. I think the downtown is a good example of that. There's no doubt we are asking all the taxing districts, inclusive of the city, inclusive of the school district, to give up some of their property tax revenues to help redevelop these areas that will, quite frankly, take years to redevelop. So in closing, I do want to say that since I've been in DeKalb, the school district and the city have always had a positive working relationship, especially in regards to our TIF agreements. I know you have the water tower on the agenda as well, and that's obviously a good working relation that we're able to work through. The city's appreciative of the positive relationship we have with the school district. We thank you for that. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I think before I ask Rudy to answer some questions, I'd like Andrea maybe, so I kind of bring you back up. Is that okay?
Of course.
Okay. Andrea, would you just make some points and do research and so forth at this point?
Sure. Actually, I sit on the joint review committee, and we looked at all the documentation, and while those areas are considered blighted, and if you know the areas in which Rudy is talking about, there's no question that something needs to be done, and revitalization would be great. However, under a TIF, we are making a 23-year commitment to forego any property growth coming onto the school district. And at this time, with declining property values, unfortunately what that is doing is raising our tax rate. And that's even outside of our referendum bonds that are sitting out there and later to come in periodically over the next 20 years. So our issue is when creating these TIFs, what we are going to see is that tax rate accelerate even faster because now we're taking these properties and freezing them at these values. So that is why in our discussion we had talked about going back to a partnership and declaring surpluses and having those dollars come back to the school district and other taxing bodies, because this is shared with all the other taxing bodies. However, on the 4th Street TIF, right now, as they've calculated those numbers, there would be no surplus from their projections. So this is something, though, we need to work into our projection model and take a look at what this will do, short-term and long-term effect to our school district and our tax rate. So we do need time to really evaluate this a little more closely, and like I said, especially in the downturn of this economy, it is more impactful to our tax rate than it would have been in a growing property value situation.
And just an informational piece, and then I'll open it to questions, but Andrea sits on the JRB board, and she's a voting member on that, and she will represent my thoughts. And then it would go forward to the city council. And the city council does not have to abide by what the JRB board does, but this is our chance and our opportunity to express our opinion, whether we are in favor or against those particular TIFs. So before I ask for consensus of the board here, I'd like to get opened up to your particular questions you might have. So questions for Rudy or for Andrea?
so I understand it, TIF means we're going to segment off a segment of the community and lock in the money that we're going to gain from it. So as property values increase, that difference that we would get in revenue is what funds the TIF to pay off the bonds that they issue in order to do the redevelopment.
Correct.
But what you're also saying is by locking it in, since property values are decreasing and tax rate goes up because of that, that area in the TIF is untouchable from that as well. Correct? Okay.
Tracy?
Well, I just have to say, I thank you for coming, Rudy, because it's the first time I've seen someone from the city here. I don't think your timing could have been much worse, though, and I'm sorry about that. You know, we have lost through sequestration Title I grants from the federal government. God knows what we're losing from the state of Illinois, and that may change before school starts. And now we have the city asking us to forego future revenues. Clearly, you do have a blighted area. But this might not be the time to be asking the school district to give up future funding, because here we are addressing issues like this. So we have a tall hurdle to get over here, and I'm just making this comment so that you understand, from my perspective, what a tall order this is at this time, and especially when over the years we've seen such a large number of TIS districts in this town on a percentage. With a build it and they will come attitude, and if there were a deal in the works right now, that'd be a different conversation. But just to throw more dollars out there hoping that we clean up a blighted area and it will raise value, of which, by the way, we don't get to participate in. Again, timing's tough. So I'll throw that out there just to think about.
Rudy, my question is, what is the, obviously location is the key, but what's the significance of the Sycamore Road location, where basically we will see some dividends from that TIF in the excess funds that are generated versus South 4th Street?
Sure. What is the difference of why we have a surplus in
When you said
Sycamore
there is a
Road?
study done that
Yes.
shows how this is projected, what's the basis for that, and what's the level of certainty that that would happen?
Sure. Basically, we had a consultant look at both sides, Sycamore Road as well as South 4th Street. And you're taking the estimated cost to redevelop the entire amount. Obviously, South 4th Street needs a lot more help than Sycamore Road does. I mean, you're talking about decades and decades of blight that needs to be fixed. There's major remediation that needs to happen on Sycamore Road. I mean, excuse me, on South 4th Street. There's, you know, obviously some auto, you know, parts. Yeah, I don't want to say it, but yeah. So, you know, there's major, I mean, you're talking millions and millions of dollars for remediation, you know, of that site alone. Developers are not going to want to touch that. They're not going to want to look at South 4th Street because of these issues. So this is why, you know, we're looking at providing or creating this TIF. Obviously, if the TIF is not created, then, you know, things will just continue the way they are. And it's going to take time to build up that increment in that TIF because the values are low in that area. There's no doubt. It's going to take time. Should a developer come in, it would be more of, we'll have to reimburse you over this long period, 20 years, to even consider doing that. So there was much more major cost on Sycamore Road, South 4th, approximately $14 million compared to the redevelopment cost in Sycamore Road. Obviously, Sycamore Road is much, much smaller. You're looking at $4 million compared to $14 million.
Is there any leads on things that would potentially go into that location in Sycamore Road?
Yes.
Okay. That was basically what I was asking. I'm not asking you to tell us what goes on.
If I could add one more thing to it as well. We did also talk about, because again, it's the longevity of these TIFs that are required to be for a 23-year period. However, if the redevelopment happens more quickly and the projects are completed, the city has an opportunity to release those TIFs back to the taxing bodies, which has happened. The area where Target and TJ Maxx, Pier 1, that strip shopping center had been a TIF area and had been released earlier by the city to us because that project was done. So we want to make certain as well that, albeit going into it, they are projects for 23 years, that there does become that certain level of which then they can release it. But we do have to watch incrementally when a TIF comes on anyways, how that project is progressing, so that there is just another set of eyes on those projects and the costs.
I was going to say thank you for bringing that up, Andrea, because when you do create that TIF, obviously if we're able to close that earlier, it benefits all the taxing districts, inclusive of the city, so we can get that in our general fund. Because it's not going to the general fund until we close that TIF. So yeah, that's a great example of where the county home TIF, once we were able to repay all the redevelopment costs for that to bring that development here, we're able to close that early. I want to say 5 to 7 years early, and we all reap the benefit from that.
Mary, you had your hand up.
A couple of questions, Andrea, you cleared up one of them. The other incentive that's often offered to businesses where they don't have to pay taxes for quite some time, does the city have any inclination to offer that to businesses so we're not getting, that additional money going in where we could possibly get a surplus?
Yeah, you're talking about the industrial incentives, correct? Yeah. Yeah. So basically, that doesn't have anything to do with TIF.
Okay.
So, and how that works is when we have a major industrial, say, plant manufacturing, look to come to DeKalb, we have an agreement with all the districts, inclusive of the school district, to abate a portion of those over usually 5 to 7 years to incentivize them to come here. But that doesn't affect the TIF at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
And my other question, the 4th Street TIF, you said that that's $13.9 million,
Right.
and the tax revenue that comes in will generate about 3.9, and that 10 million seems. I mean, and maybe I'm misunderstanding it, but it kind of seems like a gamble that you're proposing to do these projects that are going to cost 13.9, but you're only guaranteed 3.9, and so. I mean, we see the property by Castle Bank, and there was intentions for that to be developed, and that's sitting after so many years. It concerns me that if that money, that additional 10 million isn't generated, then the project it'll be a half project.
Yeah, and again, that is a risk. I mean, that's when you establish any TIF. The other side of that is, if there's no incentive to spur that development, it will just continue the way it is. And that's the challenge. I mean, again, it's been sitting around for many years. And there is that risk that you're going to take. However, if it's not eventually addressed, those properties on South 4th will continue to decline. Because they are not growing by any means. I mean, the whole city obviously is going down. It is going down at a more rapid place in that area.
Two quick questions, Rudy.
Yes.
One, does that South 4th Street TIF need to be is it an all or nothing scenario? Does it make sense at some point to start maybe with the salvage yard and a smaller section, make it more manageable, make sure that budgets are hit and so on, and then if that works and it bears fruit, then start to expand it from there? Is that worth talking about?
I guess obviously anything's worth talking about. When you talk about doing a TIF site-specific, just in one area, let's say the Britanos area.
Well, because the Route 23 area is actually quite small, right? The Sycamore Road, that's that would be an example.
Yeah, exactly. The issue, though, if you do it just for that small area, there's not going to be enough increment to do anything in that property. So that's the reason why you have to include other properties as part of that. Their increment can help fix that area. If you do it just site-specific, again, just for, say, Britanos, or just, I don't know, a few blocks, not even a few blocks, just a couple businesses around it, you're not going to pull up enough money to even do anything there. So hence why we have to cover more area for that increment to help that site.
Okay, and then last question.
Yeah,
Can't something like the salvage yard be addressed through ordinance? City ordinance? I mean, at some point, there is responsibility on the landowner. Can't that be addressed?
And we have been in contact with the owner many times in regard to cleaning that up. The issue is, for them, there's no incentive to clean it up. You know, we've been trying to work with them in regards to that. What we need to do, and what eventually you'll find, because it's been like that for many, many years, eventually no one's going to clean that up and will just continue to grow. I mean, we only have a guesstimate as to what is underground there and spreading, if you will, through remediation. So I guess that's really the challenge. I mean, and I want to say to the board, I understand it. I mean, I think all of us as local government are facing the same issues you are. You know, how are we going to, you know, provide the services that people provide and that is expected of us with less revenues? So I understand. You know, your concerns. And I've talked to Andrea about this many times. So
no further questions. I kind of propose that we look at this, if the board is willing, on both of these TIP districts separately, because they are kind of quite a bit of gap. And I think we need to give Andrea, even though it's not an action item on here, I think we need to give her direction. So I'd like to just have some discussion and action on whether we would recommend that we approve a TIP district on South 4th Street, or we would ask that it not be done at this time. Thoughts?
I'm sure it would be nice to get some surplus if there is, if that's an option on that South 4th one.
But it doesn't sound like that's
I know, I said it. Wishful thinking. I struggle with how large that is. And right now the deficit, I mean, 3.1 or 3.9 million there, we need 13.9. I guess I struggle with that one.
Well, I'm going to let's do a straw poll. I mean, I cannot support the South 4th Street TIP.
No.
Anyone? Can anyone? Okay, Andrew, I think you have your direction on that one. Sycamore Road location.
That's good.
We're going to get some payback there. I think there's still some risk, Rudy, but it sounds like there's much more opportunity there. Tracy, you're nodding yes. Nina, yes. Victoria, yes. I'm yes. Okay. There you have the information. Okay? Thanks, Rudy.
Thank you, Board.
Appreciate it. I really do want to thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
Anytime. Thank you so much.
You better not say that. Okay, new middle school schedule. Dr. Mueller.
Thank you. What I'd like to ask the board to please refer to is in board docs under the middle school schedule, there was a document called comparison of current middle school schedule compared to team time and travel encore schedule, which obviously is available for anyone who wants to look at that document. To share the information that's mentioned there. Going back to November of last year at our November 13th board meeting, the Career and College Readiness Committee that worked on the K-12 mathematics program had put forward a report, a 26-page report with recommendations about K-12 mathematics programs. One of those. And by the way, that committee consisted of elementary, middle, and high school teachers, as well as one person from Kishwaukee College, as well as a mathematics professor from NIU. And we had 3 middle school teachers and 2 middle school administrators represented. But one of the things that was mentioned was that the middle school schedules have only 44 minutes, or 43, depending which of the 2 middle schools, because of the difference in passing periods, for the delivery of the current mathematics program, which is called Connected Mathematics Project. That curricula is designed for a minimum of 60-minute period. So essentially, every day the students are going to be shortchanged by 17 minutes of instructional time. That was one of the findings. The second one was that the high school had created, we had such an incredibly high failure rate in algebra. When we only offered algebra to freshmen, the failure rate hovered slightly over 30%. And
as a reactive response to that, what we did was we went back and created a 2-year sequence called Algebra AB, which we reported out at the end of the first semester last year is doing quite well. But again, that was really more reactive. Instead of ensuring that our students are prepared to take freshman algebra their freshman year, we were reacting to the fact that a lot of our students, 30% or more, were not prepared. So that was the impetus for the recommendation at the middle school level. At the board meeting in January, when the recommendations were approved, the Facilities Finance Advisory Committee was charged to implement the recommendations contained within that report, specifically to develop a middle school schedule that significantly increased mathematics minutes instruction, and also to look at any possible savings that could be realized in FTE. The subcommittee, which consisted of, well, now 2 board members, and myself, and also the 2 middle school principals, had multiple meetings to discuss the issues. A couple of middle school schedules were developed that met that criteria. And then there was a couple of other meetings that were held where there were some DCTA members present. A couple of DCTA members brought forth two schedules in particular, which were mentioned by a few of the people who made public comments earlier. And all this, during this time, we're continually reporting back to the FFAC as to our progress. At the FFAC meeting on June 5th, a summary of all the schedules with the pros and cons for each of those schedules was presented to the FFAC, and at that time the motion was made to forward the team time and travel encore schedule with 2 options to the Board of Education. Now, a couple of things I want to be very clear about. Most significant changes were, yes, we were talking about taking minutes from either the encore. It doesn't matter whether you call it the encore or the exploratory, but one of those 2 periods, and allocating them back in for a double block of mathematics, which we were looking at that model because we had seen success with the language arts model when we went to double block at the middle school. By the way we measured that success was once the double block of language arts was implemented at the middle school, what we saw was the number of students who were required to take literacy their freshman year based on the Explore test they take in 8th grade started to decrease year after year. So we felt that was the double block of language arts was a significant factor contributing to the fact that we had a decreasing rate of students who needed to take basically a remedial literacy course their freshman year. So that's the same approach we took with that. Now, the significant changes involved in this. First of all, the exploratory periods. Exploratory periods basically that covered the following topics. That's when math and language arts interventions were given. That's when band, choir, and orchestra lessons were given. And that's also where assisted studies during exploratory. And for those students who weren't in any of those, they could take other exploratory classes, some of which were called bubbleology and so forth. But the critical components there were we still needed to have a period for interventions for students that were struggling in mathematics and science, or mathematics and language arts, and we still needed the intervention time for students with special needs. The band, choir, and orchestra is still a component of that period, as it has been. Just as before, prior to my understanding, and Dr. Scott and Mr. Vincent, if you can correct me on this, if a student is required to be in an intervention, they don't get to be in band, choir, or orchestra. And that's very similar to what we had at the high school when we offered the literacy class. If you were required to take a literacy class, you did not get to choose an elective. So, am I correct on that? So students who are identified for intervention were not eligible for band, choir, or orchestra.
Although many kids do both.
It
is possible to get band and a targeted intervention.
Okay.
So it's not that they're completely cut out if they need math or reading.
Okay, but the key point I want to make there is that the band, choir, and orchestra will still continue to be offered during that period. That we're calling an elective period. The other issue was The exploratory, I'm sorry, the encore consists of a rotation of 4 classes. Art, 9 weeks of art, 9 weeks of general music, 9 weeks of health, and 9 weeks of computers. What we proposed there was for students who didn't need targeted interventions and who were not interested in band, choir, orchestra still could also take either computers or art as either a semester or year-long elective during that period. Okay? The only thing that was truly being cut out of it was general music. That was the only thing that was being cut out. So again, I would like to refer you back to this report and show that the only thing that's really being impacted is we're not going to have the rotation of 4 9-week classes of general music, art, computers, and health. We talked about, like we do at the high school, 1/4 of the sophomore year in high school is dedicated to health instead of being in PE. So we're looking at that same model for the middle school. And again, art and computers would not be limited because they can be taken as electives, as our band, choir, and orchestra can be taken as electives. The only difference that we're really looking at here is the 2 proposals, or the 2 options are, one would involve saving 5 FTE and the other one would involve saving 3 FTE. The difference between those is the one that involves saving 3 FTE would still allow students, the ensembles that Mr. Lundin referred to take place. So the 3 FTE savings, really the only thing that's being cut is general music during the encore. If you wanted to go with the 5 FTE savings, then you would not have the band and orchestra ensemble, and then that would create 2 additional FTE savings by having one extra band and orchestra teacher that positions could be eliminated. But then that would require 1 band and 1 orchestra teacher to cover both schools, as opposed to keeping the ensembles. Then you would still have the current band and orchestra teacher, 1 at each of the 2 middle schools. So, any
questions for Dr. Moore? Dr. Moore, could you define general music?
General music? We got general music teachers here. Please, Steve. Sean?
Yeah, I teach 8th grade general music. We do currently, it's a 9-week course, so I see 4 different groups through the year. The 8th graders, the curriculum is focused on rhythm, drumming, composition. We also do a study of guitar and performance techniques, and it all builds upon what the 6th and 7th graders are studying, which is mallets and, again, music theory, beginning theory, composition. The whole point of the classes is to prepare them for, or to offer the opportunity for students to participate in music in a way that if they're not in an ensemble, band, choir, orchestra, that they have an opportunity to experience that. We have a lot of kids that discover a talent and a love for composition and arranging and things like that through these courses that they otherwise wouldn't have known about themselves had they not had the opportunity to be a part of it.
Questions? Tracy?
Well, I'm just going to let you guys know, I sat on this committee from the very beginning, and I was actually very impressed. I mean, the work that Tim and Roger and Doug put into this to try and find some sort of equitable solution that allowed for those that have a love of music to continue in music and to still continue to supply a service such as ensemble lessons. I'm a father of 2 orchestra students, and I clearly get the value of ensemble lessons. Without them, there wouldn't be much orchestra. So we clearly understand the value that comes from having these programs, and we agree that you know, the tradition that DeKalb has started here has to continue in music as long as possible. However, we're falling short in our math achievement in the junior high levels. We can cite Dr. Tatum's audit. We need to address our achievement gap, and there are so many minutes in a day from which to do that, and we had to find them somewhere. to introduce people to 9-week taste segments is nice when you can do it, but for those that have interest in computers, they can now focus there instead of being forced to take general music. Those that struggle, the special needs students that we're talking about, who thrive in, say, computers or art, may continue to thrive there instead of being forced to go into something else for 9 weeks. And we clearly get the need for physical education. Clearly get that. And we clearly get the need that some that are struggling with obesity and being overweight need that recreation time. We also clearly get that we have some kids that participate in extracurriculars that may practice for 2 hours after school and don't need PE at all and are forced to take it by mandate. I wish there was some sort of equity there where we could move some things around and make things fit for each individual kid. We just can't do it. So 9 weeks of health during PE, I would say if the kids all walked in fit and ready to go and 9 weeks later walked out on the verge of obesity, then that'd be a very valid argument to that. But obesity doesn't happen in 9 weeks, and we have to address health and PE in a constrained period of time. So it was very limited, and there was, I don't know how many iterations of this schedule that we went through. And this was the most viable alternative to what we currently have that would allow us to continue to offer ensemble lessons and keep your music programs intact and going, and let those that have a love for it specialize in it. We're just at a point where we're starting to be forced to make these sorts of decisions.
Tori, you said
I also had the opportunity to sit on this committee, and as a parent, I had a 7th grader this year who had a math at Rosette, had a fantastic teacher, but she would come home every night, and we would have to sit down with her as parents and take that 20 minutes that they're not being given in school, that extra 20 minutes, which the curriculum requires. We as parents had to help her out. And to me, that was kind of the first step in seeing that we needed to add math minutes in the middle school level. The curriculum does dictate that it's a 60-minute curriculum,
60 minutes.
minimum, and we're giving them 42 to 43. There is definitely time there that we need to add. And as Tracy also said, there's only so many minutes in a day, and we have to figure out where those minutes can come from for the math program. And again, I think this schedule is a very good schedule and continues the opportunity for music, art, computers, and the ensembles, orchestra, and all of those activities. So,
okay, given everything that you said, and I'll agree with both Victoria and Tracy, and good work done by the committee. I have to go back that the entire middle school concept is to educate the entire child, not just from the neck up, not just the brain, not just the academics. I understand. I'm a taxpayer here in DeKalb. I have been a teacher. I'm a parent, board member, all of that. I just think that if we truly believe in the middle school concept, we need to address all these concerns. I think we've heard from so many people tonight that there is definitely this movement that says save the arts. I would say go back to the schedule we had a number of years ago. When the decision was made by a previous board to have the language arts program, we went from 2 periods to 1 period, and we managed. I know we had problems going into the high school, but the ISAT scores held or improved even when we went down to 1 language arts period. We can do that again, go back up to 53-minute periods. It's not ideal. Nothing is ideal. I understand if we're trying to save money, we do need to cut some positions, but if our first focus is the students' benefit, I think we need to look again at going back to the other schedule we had where we were able to accomplish everything. And I'm not suggesting that we attempt to be all things to all people we cannot be, but I see the need for the rotation classes that we've had. I've seen the students going through the classes. I've seen how they benefit from the 4 rotation classes. They don't like this, 9 weeks, they can get through it. It's not a semester or a full year, but they get that taste. And we are looking at middle school students. They're not the same as high school students. They're younger, they're a different breed. And I think it's important that we acknowledge that difference and take a look at what they need.
This is not the meeting for that. We have public comment. This is the board discussion. Thank you. Otherwise, I will have to clear the room.
The only thing I want to address with that, Nina, you had mentioned the ISATs. As you know, the ISATs were completely recalibrated this year, and that was in anticipation of the much more rigorous park assessments that are coming down the pike. And the scores did not look at all good this year when they were recalibrated. So my concern is that, if anything, we're going to have a larger number of students failing to meet or exceed. So to look at past ISAT scores, which again are not going to be relevant after 2014, and to say it was working back then is, I don't think, indicative of what we're moving to with the park assessments.
And I understand that, but again, as those things change, as the assessments change, the teachers change what they're teaching and how they're teaching as well in order to keep up with the new look of the assessments.
Absolutely.
So.
And there's a lot of professional development because regarding there's some comments made about the 88-minute block. My first teaching assignment was an alternative high school, and I taught mathematics on a 100-minute block schedule. But there needs to be professional development because any teacher in any content area who has their children sitting there for 88 minutes, not getting up and doing any activities, moving about the room, having some cooperative grouping, they're doing them a tremendous disservice. So it can be taught in larger blocks, but the professional development has to be there to adequately address how the instruction should be delivered to cover that block of time.
I want to get to this side of the table. Mary?
So are you saying it would be 44-minute blocks or like 180?
88-minute blocks.
Okay. I do have a couple questions. How long have we been using that CMP? The curriculum?
Long before, 9 or 10 years?
2005.
Pardon me?
2005.
2005.
We brought it. Okay.
So 8 years soon.
And has it always been suggested being at 60 minutes or greater, or is this something?
That's my understanding.
Okay.
And we have just another recommendation of the committee was adopting CMP3, which we are in the process. We've already purchased it, and we're going to have professional development before the start of the school year. For that, ideally, it'd be nice to start at the same time where, if the board does approve changing this calendar. But what's been happening is teachers have had to make decisions as to what they're going to have to eliminate out of the content, and that's a concern, obviously.
Okay. And does the new Common Core standards dictate how long some of these classes should be, or based on what they want you to get through in the year?
They do. Well, the Common Core state standards dictate what the curriculum is and what needs to be covered. They don't necessarily state the manner in which it should be taught.
Okay.
But the other reason we're moving to the more current edition of CMP3 is it's better aligned with the Common Core state standards.
Okay. And my last one, because it seemed like there was a couple different answers. If a student chooses that they want to be in one of the music components or art or computers, if they do need an intervention, do they have to choose between the two? Are they required to do the intervention? What is it going to be?
Dr. Scott?
We ask them if they're tier 3 intervention, that's the bottom 10%, we ask them to be in that intervention, yes, rather than choose the band, choir, and orchestra, or take, in this model, computers or any of those. We'd ask them to actually get a reading intervention or potentially math intervention if necessary. The tier 2, the bottom 25%, there is some leeway with a parent that a student may be able to take band if they're close enough. We'll look at a number of different data, the ISAT scores and our local data and things like that. But oftentimes we will recommend a tier 2 reading help. And sometimes, the students, after a while, the teachers even recommend that. They might start out in band, choir, orchestra, and then by second or third quarter, it's recommended that they get that extra help.
Do they have the potential to bring their whatever up, whatever
Yes.
testing you're using, and go back to?
Yes, for choir, it's very easy, and that does happen where someone has worked hard, or parents do go outside and get other outside help and tutoring help outside, and then once that occurs, the student can jump into a choir, for example. A little more difficult if you're a sixth grader and you weren't in playing band, for example, and then all of a sudden, by seventh grade, you've done the reading interventions, you've done those things, and you've made some significant gains. Hard to pick up your seventh grade year. Although we have encouraged, and some parents do take advantage of private lessons while they get the interventions at school, because that's the time that they can get the interventions with us and don't have to pay for a Sylvan or those types of other types of, and they can do that, do like, you know, private lesson at home, practicing the trombone, and then by seventh grade, if they do have built up their scores, then they could join at that time in seventh grade or eighth grade or even high school.
Cool.
Is there any information increasing the amount of math minutes? What possibility that's going to be in reducing the amount of interventions that are going to be required in mathematics? Am I saying that right?
Well, I guess what I'm saying is what we've talked about, and that an 80-minute period of time for a curriculum that's roughly approximately 60 minutes, that 80-minute period of time affords 28 minutes to differentiate. I mean, you can deliver the core curriculum for that 60 minutes. An additional 28 minutes can be used for some students who may need, I mean, differentiation is key. Some students may need some enriching activities. So that extra 20 minutes can be used for that, but it can also be used to provide what would be essentially tier 2 interventions for students who need some remediation.
Which would allow those students then to be able to keep taking band or whatever they want,
Exactly.
because they're not going to
Exactly.
be pulled out of that because they're getting
Exactly.
a
I mean, theoretically, we haven't talked about the 80-minute block being used as also a period of time during which tier 2 interventions could be delivered, but it obviously could be.
Other questions?
One last point, to go more in line with your question, Connie, the idea is to be more proactive as well. We have entirely too many kids in algebra A and B. That was reactive to our failure rate. This is an attempt to be proactive. Hopefully there will be some efficiencies gained by not having the need for so much algebra A and B.
Any questions? This is brought forward to the board as an informational item. And we either stick with the current schedule or we go up or down on one of the two proposals, the 3 FTE or the 5 FTE, which were brought forth by the FFAC. And I guess it would be my consensus that we bring it forward to a vote at our next meeting. And I think what I've heard, there's a general consensus that would just be the 3 FTE model. Is that correct?
So we would still have ensembles at both schools.
We still have, yes. Okay, so we will bring that forward to a vote at our next meeting. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Muller. All right, technology, equity, expenditure. This was another task force that was provided to Dr. Muller and the FFAC. And if I could, so this is a discussion about bringing parity of technology to all of our schools. Anybody wants to stay for that? It's kind of
Going back on vacation.
It's kind of a big topic.
It's important.
Can I go with you? It's the best question all night. Where do we go? All right, Doug.
Thank you. This item.
Cohen, no offense, but technology knows how to
Even though there's a lot of the similar kind of things that we were discussing.
I would understand your perspective on that.
The item we're bringing before you as information is entirely based on the premise that we're trying to get parity in terms of access to technology across the district for all the schools. I was talking to, got Brian here and Denise Fleming. Brian was telling me that this is part of the technology plan. How many years ago?
The 2007 technology plan.
So 7 years ago, actually, yeah, 6, 7 years ago. The idea here is that what we're looking at, this has nothing to do with the one-to-one technology initiative, which we had the special board meeting on last month. This is strictly about getting all schools to a point, every classroom to a point, where the teachers can feel comfortable coming in each day and basically turning on the desktop that's connected to their smart board and be able to reasonably expect that they're going to be able to use it for the entire day. You probably noticed on the exhibit there's this term, technology-enriched classroom. The technology-enriched classroom basically refers to a classroom that's got both a smart board, document camera, a desktop, serviceable desktop computer, and the appropriate furniture to operate that equipment, and also to have the appropriate space around that equipment so students can come up and interact with the whiteboard, with the smart board. So again, this is entirely about getting all of our schools. You'll see that the first two items deal with addressing elementary schools that have absolutely no technology in them whatsoever. The second item is, to get them up to par, because what we've got is we've got some teachers who've got the smart boards, but they've got an 8-year-old. When did Gateway go out of business?
There's TBC computers there, so we're talking 7, 8 at least.
So old computers, and it's sort of a crapshoot as to whether, you know, I'm going to invest, you start it up and see if it's going to work.
I've heard from a couple of the elementary teachers.
Yes, and so so the whole idea is to basically get them new desktop computers, and desktops were chosen because the idea was that even if there's a substitute teacher coming in that day, the sub can come in, or the teacher can leave a lesson plans with a flash drive, and they can operate that for the lesson. So basically, what you've got is the first 4 lines are the first line is getting all the basic technology. Supplementing the technology that in the rooms that are not completely technology enriched. The second item is approximately through an audit that Brian did was last school year, right? Yeah. Installing the entire technology enriched classroom equipment in the 30 remaining classrooms of the elementary. Then you've got the similar items at the middle school. And then there's some PD development for our tech reps. We, as you know, we also had Edline piloted in 2 schools this year, Little John and Jefferson. There was 40. Denise, how many teachers were involved in both schools? 33 from both schools. And
32 out of the 33 that recommended that we adopt it all schools.
32 of the 33 teachers said they liked it, and they recommended we adopt it. So we do want to roll that out as well to the rest of the elementary schools. So these are things that basically are going to help develop the infrastructure we need for today's needs, and then also obviously provide somewhat of a foundation if and when we do go to one-to-one technology.
I think one key thing that you didn't clarify, this is funded from the
I'm sorry.
from the grant fund.
This would be funded entirely from the 21 million grant.
Right. Which is, this is one of the charges I think 18 months ago we gave to the FFAC is to look at the equity, and this obviously is a big step towards going there. Questions for Dr. Miller? This is brought as an informational item. Is there support to bring this forward for vote at our next meeting? Okay, any other questions?
Or Brian or Denise?
I do have one or two questions. Brian, is this 100% implementable before the start of this coming school year? No?
No, it is not. With the smart boards, the installation of the boards, even if we had them before we broke for summer break, Buildings and Grounds didn't have the personnel to do all the installation over break because they were already committed to other projects. I did talk to Jeff Potter this afternoon, And he said realistically with, 70 boards, if they had to go through and do that, he thought it would be anywhere from 1 to 2 month period with school running. So what they did a lot of last year was after or before school, depending on whether it was a middle school or a secondary or grade school, they went into the rooms and would, do 1 or 2 a day, depending on the schedule. And so it was just whoever was on second shift or morning shift, they had somebody specifically doing that.
So the best we can do.
Right. A key part of this, I was telling Doug actually earlier today, we quit, or the rotation cycle was eliminated from the technology budget in the 09 school year. So and that was $100,000 to $120,000 a year. So this would be the 5th year of that. So when you look at that, it's actually a wash.
This is about we're catching up.
And the equipment that's out there, it's grant funded, building funds, PTA funds, curriculum and technology budget, and construction budget. Having the new high school and new Portland helped alleviate a lot of issues about that coming along, but everything else is really just planning.
Other comments?
I make a comment. To me, this is a leaky roof. We've spent millions in the infrastructure, in the technology in this district, and done an absolutely wonderful job. To then, at the final end point, abandon it. The one thing that's going to connect you to everything that we've done over the years, we have to stop. At some point, we've really got to decide that this is something we want to have, and this is something we want to expose our kids to.
It needs to be an annual maintenance cost.
Yes, for sure.
Other comments? Okay, Doug?
Yes, I was just wondering if it is going to be brought forward, may we proceed with
Starting bids.
Starting bids?
So to speed up the process.
Save us 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, we'll be approving those bids, but at least they can get started on it. Is there consensus to do that? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you, Dr. Moore. Non-business consent agenda. It's been recommended the Board of Education approve the non-business consent agenda items A through F. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Colin Barnes?
Yes.
Nina Fontana?
Yes.
Vicki Hernan Favor?
Yes.
Mary Hess?
Yes.
Tom Mattia?
Yes.
Victoria Newport?
Yes.
Tracy Williams?
Yes.
Motion passes. It's been recommended under the business consent agenda that the Board of Education approve business consent agenda items A through F. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Nina Fontana?
Yes.
Vicki Hernan Favor?
Yes.
Mary Hess?
Yes.
Tom Mattia?
Yes.
Victoria Newport?
Yes.
Tracy Williams?
Yes.
Colin Barnes?
Yes.
Motion passes. We'll move on to business and finance. Obviously, if you've been driving around the community, you've seen a lot of the summer projects underway. I just asked for Dr. Briscoe and Andrew just to give us a brief update on our summer projects.
You want to comment, Andrew? I have one comment on it.
Well, actually, I think between the both of us, we've been out to all buildings. These projects basically are focused on creating secured main entryways at our buildings, and that would include Jefferson, Lincoln, Little John, and Malta. Additionally, we had a flooring issue in the gymnasium at Malta, so a big project is correcting that issue this year. And then Founders, as well as having some work done on roof and their front drive. And then there's also Clinton, Rosette, and Founders, and Huntley that is getting lighting replacement, much needed lighting replacement done in the gym area.
I just wanted to comment and highlight the Malta gym that's finally, hopefully, based on Ray Faber, I think it's been corrected. And just to put it in perspective, that floor was pulled out and underneath was concrete. And what they had to do to fix the drainage is he air hammered out a good two feet probably all the way around the gym and dug down, pulled the concrete out, and had to lay the drainage tile. Then they had to mix the concrete and bring it into the gym by wheelbarrow. And I'm going to tell you that kind of work contracting out would have been significant. So I just want to commend Ray and his crew out there because that was hard labor.
What percent have they done on that project? at Malta?
At Malta, when I was out there, they had all the concrete, I mean, the flooring's gone, the trenches are dug, and I think
The
they
concrete
were,
was back in.
the concrete was back in, and they were dealing with more of the drainage.
So if you do have some time, when you're driving around town, just to check in on some of these sites, I mean, the work being done at Founders looks great. It's about every day. So, thank you. Any other questions for Dr. Briscoe or Henry?
Real quick, this isn't a question, and Tammy's not here, but I can tell you the amount of activities going on here this summer has been unbelievable. Between semi-pro football teams and camps and stuff, and the amount of outside activity here this year has been unbelievable. It's been done smoothly. The grounds have looked fabulous. You drive by Rosette, all the other schools, the grounds look fabulous. I mean, the grounds crew this year has been really something, really. And we're hosting so much more stuff now. It's not uncommon to go out to the fields at Huntley and see something going on there at night. So not only are our facilities being used, but the group, it shows. You can see what they're doing.
Okay, we're going to move on to new business. The intergovernmental agreement with the city of DeKalb and the water tower logo. Dr. Briscoe.
Yeah, I wanted to share that with you. Brian Huey and I met with the city on Monday morning to just get some clarification on some issues I had on the agreement. The intergovernmental agreement is basically, like Rudy said, they're going to basically donate $5,000 toward the project, but we wanted some details on what the prep work meant, because within the contract it said the district would be responsible for prep work. Well, we decided, I talked to Brian, we would just do the east side because we have the money raised to paint for the east side, so we're ready to go whenever they're ready. But there's questions and details that have to be worked out. So the city's offered to work with Dixon Engineering at no cost to us to make sure we understood what prep work would be. So we'll know that. Monsanto is actually going to place a new version of their logo they want up there. So when they decide to do that, we'll use their equipment. It's like $500 an hour. And they're going to allow us to use the equipment from the company who we're going to contract with to put the logo up. Now,
just for clarification, the Monsanto logo is on the other side.
Right.
It's not on top of it.
Yes, that's true. Now, just for the timeline, just so I want everyone to be clear on the timeline, the city plans to drain the southeast water tower, and they actually go in. It was sort of interesting. They go in and they send crews in the side of that to clean it. I never knew that. And they're going to spend 8 weeks to get that tower set up. They have to drain it, so that means they can't work on the water tower by the high school till probably mid-September. So they really believe by mid-September they can drain the water tower by the high school and get that logo done before, hopefully, we're hoping before the end of November. So we'll keep you posted, but the money we feel we have raised for the east side of the tower, and I think it's pretty exciting, and we'll keep giving you updates. And I just wanted to bring this forward to have maybe get this approved at the next meeting, and then we won't move forward till we work with the contractor. We've asked the city to work with the contractor with us because they know more details about the water tower. So,
questions for Dr. Briscoe? Appreciate your efforts to raise the funds. Differentials, approval of differentials. At our last meeting, this was brought forth by Connie, and we had sent back some direction, and it looks like Brian has come back with some savings and some shifting some things. So, Connie, you want to discuss that before I ask for a motion?
Yes, if you look on the attachment, in addition to that, Brian and I worked together to reallocate funds that are currently within the district's budget already. Of the approximately $21,000 that would be needed to fill the unfilled positions, which include the assistant swim coach for boys, assistant swim coach for girls, as well as a weight room coordinator, and adding an additional assistant band director, we were able to find approximately not quite $15,000. That leaves about $6,200 that the board would need to give permission to add to the athletic activities budget. I do want to point out that these numbers are based on the current DCTA contract of what we have for differentials. And as you know, that is currently under negotiation, so those actual numbers could change, but these are based on what the numbers we have now. I did not include the rationale behind filling these three positions because we had provided that to you at the last board meeting. So do you have any questions about any of the items that we have designated for relocating and how we came up with those?
Connie, if I understood you right, the 2013-14 figures are what you're looking to pay?
Correct.
As opposed to what we had been paying?
Correct. And how that happens is within the DCTA contract, there is an experience factor.
Mhm.
So if a coach or an advisor has been doing it for multiple years, there's an experience factor. We really kind of looked at people that are not returning in some of those positions to see what that savings would be, because we would be replacing them with somebody who would not be having that experience factor.
Okay.
That's where we came up with showing you with the 12-13 year what it cost, what it will cost for 13-14, and then how we're able to reallocate those funds. Like I said, currently those funds are already within the budget. There are two differentials that you will see at the bottom for 12-13, and then for 13-14 we have zeros. What has happened with those two particular, you guys had said, go back, look and see what the enrollment is for kids. Is there something we cannot fill? Those two were chosen because the teacher who did those retired this year. Nobody from the DHS staff has said that they want to take on those differentials. So therefore, those were the two that we said, well, we can reallocate those funds because, and this was as of, a week and a half ago, nobody had come forward saying that they wanted to take on that differential, so that's how those two came to be. And then there are some allocated general funds that we could move into that athletic budget to come up with that total.
So it's been recommended that the Board of Education approve the attached 2013-14 DHS differentials and additional costs of $6,197. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Vicki Hearn in favor?
Yes.
Mary Hess?
Yes.
Tom Mattia?
Yes.
Victoria Newport?
Yes.
Tracy Williams?
Yes.
Colin Barnes?
Yes.
Nina Fontana?
Yes.
Motion passes. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
I wasn't sure. So I thought you were
No, I agree with that,
You probably do better than me.
Hey, Brian,
Okay, wake up.
Well,
Yeah, that's